Let's see what happens as a result of Sonny's strong feelings for Hillaney. And will Keller ever wake up? On to the next chapter. Chapter 9, The Door He Couldn't Open. Keller kept his focus on the game. It is what he'd been trained to do. No matter what was going on in his personal life, on game days, he kept his mind on the game. Every time he lined up, read the defense, and executed a play, his mind was where it needed to be. But in the moments before and after the game, his thoughts were about Sonny. Was Sonny watching? Was she sitting with his family like she usually do? He had spotted her earlier in the stadium, and damn, she looked amazing. He always loved when she let her curls out. Most of the time she wore her hair in what she called a writer's bun. Some practical style she swore kept her focus. But when she let it loose, it was like a whole new version of her stepped into the room, effortlessly stunning, completely unaware of the way she turned heads. He could still hear her laugh when they teased each other about it. It was hard to look at her now, to be around her after everything that happened. He wanted to go back to how things were before, back when they were just Keller and Sonny, no complications, no confusion. But how could he, when all he felt now was pressure? Pressure to pretend he didn't want to kiss her every time she smiled at him. Pressure to act like his heart didn't race when she touched him, even in the most innocent ways. Pressure to ignore the jealousy that burned in his gut when he saw other men looking at her the way he always had, except now she wasn't just his best friend anymore. She was slipping away, entertaining the idea of someone else. He had never, ever felt this way about anyone she ever dated before. This was a new level in his feelings for her. He had tried to create space to get away from her long enough to figure out his own damn feelings. But it hadn't worked. If anything, the distance had only made things worse. Avoiding her didn't stop him from wanting her, and it sure as hell didn't stop the ache in his chest when he saw the disappointment in her eyes the last time they spoke. He had hurt the one person who had always been in his corner, always had his back, the one person he never wanted to lose. And somehow, despite everything, he had managed to push her away. The truth was, he loved her. And God, he wanted to tell her. Wanted to kiss her in front of everyone and make up for all the wasted time, for every moment he let fear hold him back. He wanted to pull her against him and whisper every word he'd been too much of a coward to say. That she was the one person who had ever truly seen him, the one he trusted more than himself. That no matter how hard he tried to push her away, his heart always led back to her. But he didn't move. He couldn't, because as much as he wanted to claim her, to erase any doubt in her mind about where they stood, the damage had already been done. He had spent too long running, too long pretending, too long keeping her at arm's length. What if he had waited too long? No need to ask that question. He had waited too long. He knew she had already moved on. The thought made his stomach twist. He had seen her with Hillaney, seen the way the guy looked at her, the way she smiled back. And why wouldn't she? Hillaney was everything he wasn't. Keller had done his homework on Hillaney. He needed to know exactly who this guy was, the man who had somehow slipped into Sonny's life so effortlessly. At first, he had hoped to find something, some kind of blemish, a red flag, anything that would prove Hillaney wasn't all that he seemed to be. But to Keller's frustration, the deeper he looked, the more solid Hillaney appeared. Not only was he clean off the field, but he was even better in real life than he was on paper. He was one of those rare underdog stories, an undrafted talent who had made the most of his opportunity when a few starters went down. He stepped up, delivered when it mattered, and earned himself a spot on the active roster. But once the starters got healthy, he was sent back to the practice squad, where Keller's team had been smart enough to scoop him up off waivers. Hearing about him was one thing, but playing alongside him gave Keller a first-hand look at what made Hillaney different. He was relentless. The guy was always the first one in the facility, the last one to leave, the first one to help everyone around him. He worked harder than most drafted players and never acted entitled to anything. Whether it was grinding through workouts, running drills, or putting in extra hours watching film, he took every detail seriously. It was amazing how he knew the plays when he walked on the field the first day. Keller thought there would be a learning curve, but not with Hillaney. His attention to detail was flawless. And it wasn't just about him. Hillaney made the team better. He spent time with the quarterbacks breaking down plays, asking questions, making sure he understood every coverage inside out. He even worked with the defensive backs, studying their techniques so he could sharpen his routes and footwork. His discipline extended beyond the field, too. Keller had picked up a few recovery techniques just from watching Hillaney taking care of his body. Stretching routines, ice bath, mobility work. The man was dedicated in every way that was hard not to respect. But what's really stood out most, above all, was the way Hillaney carried himself. He was patient, respectful, kind. He treated everyone from the coaches to the rookie to the cleanup crew with the same level of consideration. And when it came to Sonny, he was nothing short of intentional. Keller had overheard Hillaney making quick calls to Sonny's just to let her know he was thinking about her and expressing how grateful he was to see her, if just for a little while. That was something Keller knew he had failed at. Hillaney made an effort. Every move made towards Sonny was deliberate. He didn't just want to date her, he wanted to know her, to understand her, to cherish her. Keller had spent so much time pretending not to care, running from his own feelings, that he never gave Sonny what she truly deserved. Maybe that was why this stings so much. Hillaney wasn't just a good guy, he was a great guy. The kind Keller probably needed to take a few lessons from. And maybe deep down, that was what scared him. A man who actually showed up for her instead of pushing her away. Keller felt sick. He had no one to blame but himself. His fingers twisted at his side. He could still fix this, couldn't he? He could stop pretending, stop making excuses, stop letting his own fears ruin the best thing in his life. He could walk into the crowd, take her hand, and finally tell her the truth. But what if she didn't want to hear it anymore? What if she had finally given up? That fear, the fear he had lost her for good, the fear he had lost her for good, kept him frozen in place. He had spent years protecting himself, avoiding the risk of losing her by never fully claiming her. But in the end, it seemed he had lost her anyway. The sharp sound of his name snapped Keller out of his thoughts as he stood in the tunnel. Cal! He knew that voice instantly. Only one person called him that. Sorry for the break in the story, but if you are enjoying what you hear, please hit the like and subscribe button and share this with your friends. These are inspiring, original stories about relationships that are good and wholesome for the heart. Now back to the story. His sister, Kamren. Keller looked up from his phone just in time to see her striding towards him with purpose, eyes blazing with determination. She didn't slow down. Instead, she grabbed his arm and got real close to his face, her expression a mixture of frustration and disbelief. Who is Taylor? And are you crazy? She demanded. His heart stuttered at the mention of that name, Taylor. His mind immediately jumped to Sonny. Was she in the box with his parents, sitting next to Taylor? Had she seen them together? The thought of her being hurt by something he did, by something he brought, sent a sharp ache through his chest. In his 4 seasons as a quarterback, he had never had another woman in the booth with his family. Only his family and Sonny. Why? Did something happen? He asked, trying to mask his sudden panic. Kamren let out a harsh breath, shaking her head. Your dumbassness happened, she snapped. I hope whatever you're doing is worth it, because Sonny wasn't in the booth today. And honestly, I'm glad she wasn't. Keller tensed, confused, knitting his brows. Why would Sonny have a problem? She's my friend. His voice came out sharper than he intended, defensive. Kamren rolled her eyes so hard she swore she saw the inside of her skull. Your thinking that way makes you more delusional than I thought. Then she shook her head, stepping back. Don't play around too long, little bro, because you're not going to like the outcome of this little game you're playing. She turned and walked away without so much as a good game or a second glance. Keller exhaled slowly. Kamren's words stuck to him like burns, irritating and impossible to ignore. Sonny wasn't in the booth. That means she hadn't seen Taylor sitting there. But still, Kamren was pissed. Did she think Sonny would have a problem with it? He frowned. He didn't see anything wrong with inviting Taylor to the game. That meant she hadn't seen Taylor sitting there. But still, Kamren was pissed. Did she think Sonny would have a problem with it? Sorry for the break in the story, but if you are enjoying what you hear, please hit the like and subscribe button and share this with your friends. These are inspiring, original stories about relationships that are good and wholesome for the heart. Now back to the story. He frowned. He didn't see anything wrong with inviting Taylor to the game. They had met a week before he ran into Sonny at the photo shoot mixer. She had approached him at a club where he'd been hanging out with a few teammates. Taylor was attractive, confident, and knew exactly how to get a man's attention. There was no denying the instant pull between them. If he had been any other guy, they probably would have ended up somewhere private that night. But Keller wasn't reckless like that. He had a little more respect for the women he met. Still, Taylor intrigued him. They had exchanged numbers, and 3 days later they met up for dinner. The conversation was decent, smooth, flirty, effortless, but it wasn't like talking to Sonny. With Sonny, he didn't have to try. With Sonny, it wasn't just words. It was a connection, history, understanding. But he had already blown it with her, hadn't he? So why did she still linger in his mind, pulling him back even when he tried to move forward? He inhaled sharply, shaking off the thought. Maybe it was time to stop avoiding her. Maybe it was time to talk to her, face whatever was left between them, and finally put that night after the Super Bowl behind them before it consumed him completely. After greeting the rest of his family, Keller turned to Taylor and told her he'd have to see her later than planned. He originally intended to get some recovery time in, but instead he decided to go see Sonny first. He couldn't shake the feeling that things between them had become too strained. The tension was suffocating, and he needed to fix it. He wanted their friendship back, or at the very least, some kind of clarity. As he drove the few blocks to Sonny's place, he felt an odd sense of excitement. It had been too long since they talked one-on-one, and maybe, just maybe, tonight would be the night they finally cleared the air. But when Keller pulled into her complex, he instinctively checked the house number, then the name on the mailbox. No, this was definitely Sonny's house. So whose car was that in the driveway? His stomach tightened as his eyes locked into the small sticker on the windshield. Player parking. His mind instantly put the pieces together. It was Hillaney's car. Keller's jaw clenched. He forced himself to take a deep breath. Okay, this didn't mean anything. Sonny had told him they were just friends. That had to be all this was. Maybe she had cooked him a post-game meal, something she'd done for Keller plenty of times. It wasn't a big deal, but his grip on the steering wheel told a different story. A storm of questions swirled in his mind, each one feeding into his growing frustration. What if Hillaney was taking advantage of her? No, Sonny wasn't naive. She wouldn't let that happen. What if he wasn't taking advantage? What if she wanted this? The thought made his body tense. Keller exhaled, forcing himself to rein in his emotions before they took him to somewhere he had no right to go. He had come here to talk to Sonny about moving forward, about forgetting the past, about making things right, not to barge in on her personal life like a jealous ex-boyfriend. Besides, he had to think bigger than himself. A scene in front of her house wouldn't just affect them, it could create headlines, and the last thing Sonny needed was her personal life dragged into the public eye because of him. His own reputation could take the hit if it had to, but Hillaney was new to the team, and Sonny's career was just as important to her as football was to him. He had to be mindful of that. Keller ran a hand over his face, exhaling sharply. Don't be selfish. Hadn't he already made enough selfish decisions? He had spent so much time avoiding his emotions, dodging uncomfortable conversations, and making sure he never felt too vulnerable. But where had that left him? With nothing but regret, a fractured friendship, and the gnawing realization that the one person who had loved and supported him through his entire life, without conditions, without hesitations, was now on the other side of a locked door. Did he really think he could show up after everything and expect their relationship to fall back into place? The answer settled in his chest like a weight. No. Whatever this was, whatever he had done, it wasn't something he could fix in a single conversation. Maybe not ever. His hand hovered over the car door handle, every instinct telling him to go inside, to knock, to demand a moment of her time. But then he let out a slow breath, pulled his hand back, and put the car in reverse. For the first time in a long time, Keller did the thing he least expected himself to do. He let her go. And as he drove away, he couldn't help but wonder if the relationship with Hillaney had gone beyond Sonny's need to have his attention again.